Hello, my name is ToS1, and today I'll be showing you guys how to play Monk in Tree of Savior. To start off, Monk is a rank 5 Cleric class, which means you'll have a couple of choices leading up to Monk on how to play. Let's hop into the skill planner and see what we've got. Starting off, Monk is a Cleric class, which means you're going to be primarily a healer, so which means you're going to want to max your heal. Take 1 point in Deep Protected Zone, and I'll show you why later. 5 points into Cure, just because of the interaction it has with Malleus. For Inquisitor, if you so decide to go that, which you probably should, it's the best bet. And then 4 points in Safety Zone, and that's only if you're saying Cleric 1. I suggest you go Cleric 2. In Cleric 2, you can go 10 points in Heal. Fade is up to you, really, as is Divine Might. I prefer having more points in Divine Might as it is more DPS for your group. You don't need to really max Safety Zone because most of the time the block count, or the circle will expire before you hit the block count, so that's a thing you should look out for. So again, Fade, Deep Protected Zone, Cure, and Safety Zone. But the real interesting bit comes for your rank 3 class, where you can go Priests 2, which gives you a lot of sustain, survivability, and utility for a group. So obviously you'd want to max Revive, max Mass Heal, a point in Sacrament for the utility, max Resurrection, a point in Monstrous is very important. Then 1 point into 3 points into Aspersion, 10 points in Blessing. And the reason we take 3 points into Aspersion rather than maxing it is because you get the most jump from going from level 0 to level 1, which is 20%. After that, it's just 2% per skill level. Then we get into the interesting bit, which is what you came here for, Monk 1. Monk 1 gives you your basic skills. Iron Skin, it's not a very good skill at all. You can take 1 point into it for a really jank, really ghetto pain barrier. Basically, it'll not stop knockdowns from affecting you while you're channeling it. You'll still take the damage, however. So you can put a point in that. It's really good if you know how to actually use it and what skills you're looking for to block the knockdown from. But again, it's not going to be as good as Swordsman's pain barrier because you're not blocking the damage. You're not DPSing while you're using Iron Skin. You're just sort of stopping the knockdown. Double Punch is going to be your bread and butter. It's a very good skill. It does 2 physical strike damage skills, and it has a 10% chance of applying a debuff, which increases the amount of damage they take. 1 point into Palm Strike, which is a knock back. 1 point into Hand Knife, which is a knock up. For rank 6, you can take Monk 2, which gives you more points into Double Punch, more points in... Actually, no, it's just more points in Double Punch. It gives you Energy Blast, which you're going to want to max. 1-inch Punch, which you're going to want to max as well. Godfinger Flick, you can max this if you'd like. It just raises the damage, but all in all, Godfinger Flick is mainly for the debuff, which causes them to receive 30% additional strike damage. Then for Monk 3, max Energy Blast, of course, maxed 1-inch Punch. Now, here's the real debate. Whether or not you should go Golden Bell Shield, which now simply lowers the cooldown of it. It's going to be a solid 1.5 seconds every time, and then a 0.5 second spillover, so about 2 seconds of invulnerability. And then after that, you're going to have an option of either, after your Double Punch max, you have another point to distribute however you want. Really, Godfinger Flick for a little bit more extra damage, Palm Strike, or Hand Knife. Really, it doesn't matter. Moving on, for your rank 8, you probably want to take Inquisitor. Personally, I would max God Smash, and here's why. Most would max Malleus. It just makes more sense. You know, the 22-second debuff that you get, 30 seconds with Divine Might, the ability to just hit for a shit massive amount of damage. It's a very good skill. However, I would recommend maxing God Smash, obviously pairs, Breaking Wheel 4 and 1 in Malleus, and the reason you would do this is because you have a lot of strike debuffs in God Smash. It's a very hard-hitting skill, so you'll be able to make the most of these 3 overheats of God Smash. And then other variants that I've seen are um, Cleric 2. I've seen Cleric 2 Priest, Paladin, um, and then Monk. And then for the Paladin, you would probably take, I guess, 5 in Smite, 5 in Resist Elements for the additional defense, 1 in Turn Undead, 4 in Restoration, or maybe even 4 in Turn Undeads for the more target count, and then 1 in Restoration. Since Restoration's main purpose as a skill is simply to increase the amount of healing it does, there's a hidden interaction that's on the tooltip, which makes so that targets affected by Restoration receive additional healing. So you have that going on. Then that will lead into Monk nicely because you have the 2 Overheat Smite, which has a short knockback, and then you have a attribute for Paladin, which makes targets that are knocked back take more damage. I've seen people take Cleric 2, then something like Priest 1 for the utility, and then Krivis 1 for the utility to max at Zalkai. You know, Zalkai is a really good skill because it increases your crit damage. Since Monk is a physical class, you're going to want to go Dex. You know, you get the Dino for the additional buffs, Zybos to deal with flying mobs, you know what I mean? You know, you don't have to max Dino. Then Alcross is good because it pairs well with Dex, because you can drop an Alcross and it lowers enemies' accuracy, which pairs well with Monk taking the 1 point in Monstrous to raise your Dex, which in turn raises your evasion. So you have that going, and it also lowers the duration of debuffs, which is really nice for those rank 2 and rank 3 debuffs, which you can't really cleanse, but, you know, suffering from them less is obviously good. I've seen people take Cleric 3, I don't know why, you know, you just get a lot of heals, and then Sad Human, you know, Cleric 3 giving you access to more points in Divine Might, more points in Heal, more points in Cure. Guardian Saint, very interesting skill, very interesting skill. I've seen it used mainly to divert damage to a tankier target. You know what I mean? You can basically give it to, I don't know, someone who has a lot of health, then go in with a bit of impunity. It can be go hate off, but just keep that in mind. Then you have, you know, your out of body and your I have no idea how to say that skill, to be honest. The one that takes you back to your body, or rather drags your body to your spirit. You know, gives you that astral body explosion. However the heck you say this is pretty useless. I wouldn't put any points into it because it's a channel. You can use your out of body attacks and double punch and use all your skills at the same time, which is super useful. It's very high skill cap, but it's a lot of DPS. It's really good because your main weapon as a monk is going to be a blunt weapon or a mace, not a rod or anything, so you do benefit from the physical attack primary from the mace and the magic attack substat that it offers, because that will increase the amount of damage you do with out of body. Moving on, other builds I've seen, you can take Div Derbis 2, which gives you access to Carve Zemia, which is a great skill, reduces SP usage, you need to get a free warp. Lamaya, obviously, for that slow. The slow is great. Cooldown reduction, you cannot argue with that. Carve Attack, giving you much needed pierce damage. Overheat 3, great skill. Gives you Carve Royaltree, great skill. It's a silence, pretty good. You can sit in that. And Carve Owl, great skill again. It's a magic attack, however, it's a statue. So the magic attack of it, so whenever it casts, it does 3 hits of fire property damage. Or excuse me, magic property damage. But what makes it cool is that it will take Inquisitor's Pairs of Anguish, and they will home into this, so you can then use your own spells without having to worry about getting blown up by an Inquisitor, or just, you know, utterly obliterated by pairs, because they are a very strong skill that you do have to pay attention to. Moving on, after that, basically, Monk is a class that combos very well into itself. You have your 3 circles of monks, so that gives you access to 3 different CC skills. So Energy Blast, which is a charging skill. You will hold the button down and charge it up. You can use Energy Blast basically to knock people into walls, knock them out of safety zone and other protective magics. Energy Blast knockback. The only thing that stops it really is what is that skill called? Pain Barrier from the Swordsman tree. Other than that, if you're actually physically hit by Energy Blast, you're knocked back. Now, just letting you know, Energy Blast is a physical hit that does holy property damage, so it can crit, it can be blocked, and it can miss. So just keep that in mind. It's not a magical attack like Gohei. It is a physical attack, so keep that in mind. It's very important to note that your accuracy will go into these calculations as well as your block pen. Hand knife. Should talk about hand knife for a little bit. You want to start everything you do with hand knife, even before you use Godfinger Flick, because hand knife applies armor break. What armor break does, it just straight up removes the enemy's line of physical defense. Now this can be blocked by spells like Prophecy and Bloodletting, but other than that, it's a great skill to start with. It has a knock-up, so you'll be able to do whatever you need to do against future targets, and that particular target that you knocked up, because they don't have any armor, which is great. It's really good versus those people who have stacked thousands and thousands of physical defense. You have Palm Strike, and Palm Strike is a great skill because it applies a bleed for several seconds. Now this is important because Monk leads very, very well into Inquisitor. Inquisitor has Malleus. Malleus applies a debuff that makes every amount of damage that they take apply their magic attack to this damage. This includes both of your damage over time effects from Palm Strike and 1-inch Punch. It's very important to note that you can also, during this time, spam Double Punch to apply it twice every tick of Energy Blast. It's just a great class to go into. It's a great offensive class to go into Inquisitor, especially considering that you can circumvent Monk's rather short-range skills by using these all on the Breaking Wheel, which applies them in a very, very, very wide AoE centered around your character, which is important to note. With this knowledge in hand, you'll be able to do things like Armor Break in an AoE from a distance, Bleed in an AoE from a distance, and then 1-inch Punch. And 1-inch Punch is a very special debuff in that when it lands, basically for the full duration, which is why you max it, it doesn't raise the damage of the damage over time effect that it has, however it raises the initial damage. Anyway, for the full damage, which is 16 seconds with Divine Might, the target is basically, I'm not going to say incapacitated, but they're incapacitated in that they've lost their ability to regenerate mana, because their mana will be drained for the amount of damage you're doing. Now, since most classes have about up to 3k SP, hitting them with 1-inch Punch basically guarantees that after 2 ticks of the skill, they won't be able to cast any spells. Also, you can guarantee this because it has an attribute that allows you to silence from the beginning. Now, in order of importance of attributes you want to max for damage, I would say max Energy Blast, get that to 70 first. 1-inch Punch you can skip because it only raises the initial damage. Palm Strike you can skip. Hand Knife you can skip. And then Double Punch. Double Punch is your bread and butter. It's basically going to replace your auto attack since it's 2 fairly strong hits. If you decide to go the Priest route, obviously you're going to want to buff Blessing. You're going to get Blessing maxed. And that's about it. Aspersion, I mean, like, there's no real point in putting anything into or any attribute damage into that because it just raises the initial damage, which is fairly weak. And then if you go Deep Derbis, obviously you're going to want to get some points into Carve Attack. Obviously you're going to put some points into Carve Owl. The Lamaya attribute isn't that good. The range is what makes it really good. You know, it's a big silence, it's a big AoE. It's really good for that. And Cleric, obviously, you don't really need to max, and you can put some points into Cure if you want. Obviously, you're going to want to get the damage interval for Cure to make it tick faster. Other than that, we can hop in game for a moment, and we can take a look at how everything is going. So basically, as a monk, you have a lot of abilities available to you to actually deal damage. But the main ones you're going to want to look out for are going to be 1-inch punch, which has a fairly short range. I brought some prophecy scrolls to show everybody the range of monk abilities. So basically, 1-inch punch, which is one of your bread and butter skills, in PvP it's fairly useless, but in PvP it has a fairly short range, as you can see, basically on top of your character. Then you have skills like hand knife, isn't that long. Double punch, very short, it's actually shorter than your auto attack. And you also have skills like Palm Strike, which is a great skill. Again, it's a knockback and a bleed. It's slightly longer than your auto attack. With this information in my... Oh, and, I'm sorry. Godfinger Flick is a ranged attack. It's a single target, and it makes the target take increased strike damage. So do keep that in mind. Energy Blast. It's a very long AoE. It'll actually reach off your own screen. I'm running the 1080p screen. I can't even see it. During the entire duration of it, you'll knock back your targets as well. You can't knock these back, but yeah. So yeah, just keep that in mind. You have various ways of proccing your Malleus as well, because you know you have the bleed effect and you have the 1-inch punch effect. So I guess you could start off by using Malleus, then immediately followed up with 1-inch and bleed for them to take the magic attack on all of these dots, which is really good. And then you have stuff like Cure, obviously. You know, if you're really trying to do it, I mean, like, you know, while you have Malleus, you can use Breaking Wheel. Really good for extending the range of all your attacks as well. Pop another forecast roll. Makes it a really big AoE. See, I was able to hit this guy over here with it. Yep, then you have, you know, just your Inquisitor skills, you know, Pair of Anguish. You know, they're really good because anyone that casts a spell on their range, you know, is immediately targeted by them. They do a lot of damage, are really good at following up. They're really good at zone control. Just watch out for skills like Revenge Sevenfold and Osrine, you know. You want to save them for when you know you're going to be able to do the maximum amount of damage with them. You have Carve Attack, it's a multi-hit. Works really, really, really well with Malleus, because you can, you know, proc their magic attack multiple times. And get some wood too. It's a really nice skill. And yeah. Basically for combos, you're always gonna want to start with a skill like Hand Knife. It's a very short knock-up, really great animation. As soon as you knock them up, immediately you want to knock your enemy back with Palm Strike. Actually, it'd be better if I went to a different map to test this out. So let me head into a more combat-oriented map so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. It'd be better if you could see it rather than have to just hear me talk about it. But basically, you know, your skills combo really well into each other. They combo really well into other skills, or excuse me, classes skills. They give you a lot of openings against anything that's not Pain Barrier. You know, especially Energy Blast being able to kill at very low levels. Anyone who has under like 16k HP, I want to say, is just dead instantly, even with a lot of physical defense. So yeah, basically coming into this map, I'm going to find a mob and I'm going to just show you how to really get the most of your skills together. Since you don't have to channel the full duration of Energy Blast, that's what I'll be showing you how to do. Full duration is, you know, it's pretty ridiculous, but I'll show you a couple of quick combos that you can use to really get the max effect, especially in PvP. So you want to start with Hand Knife. And this mob cannot be mocked up, so that's a good, yep. You have the attribute on. Nope, that mob just can't be knocked up. Okay. Basically Hand Knife for the short knockup. Yep, Palm Strike. Charge Energy Blast until they get up, and then release it. It's even more CC you've got going on. Now this is a longer knockdown for some reason, but this allows you to put down Breaking Wheel, do things like 1-inch punch. Now 1-inch punch going, great silence, great AoE damage. Hand Knife for the armor break, and then just you want to do something like God Smash. Works really well with your increased blunt damage that you just had going. You know, when they're knocked down, you can do something like Malleus your enemy, you know, does a lot of damage to squishies. Get your pairs down. Pairs are always important to have down. You don't have to start with them, but you know, they're great. They also work as traps, you know, they can step on them, take the damage from that. You know, it's just a really good skill to have going. You know, in case you want a ToS build, I have no advice for you. I've never seen a functioning monk ToS, even though Storm Calling looks really good on paper. But yeah, as for monk, you know, you just want to make sure that you have low ping so you can double punch more often. It's very important to keep your double punch DPS up because, you know, that's going to be your main source of DPS. Does a lot of damage, especially with all your strike debuffs going. You know, you're going to keep that up. You know, you can get those big crits. You know, can Malleus beforehand, and then double punch to make them take their magic attack with it as well. You know, 1-inch punch. You know, you've got all these skills available to you. Just know you're very, very weak against things like Pain Barrier. You know, not being able to CC your target's a big, big, big issue for you. You're weak against things like Osrine. Since Monk and Miko both come in the same slot, you won't be able to remove Osrine. You know, you've got that big weakness against having, you know, people burst you down before you're able to, since Golden Bell Shield only lasts for 1.5 seconds and then has a 2-second after effect, you know. So, you know, you'll be able to Golden Bell Shield, and then for 0.5 seconds after you're invincible, but after that you're kind of screwed. You know, you don't have knockdown immunity. You know, it's just these are the things you want to really look out for when you're moving on into playing Monk, if you decide to play Monk. You know, it's definitely not the strongest class by any means, but, you know, if you're playing your class right, you have the gear and you have the know-how, you'll be able to get the jump on your enemies, and I came here today to hopefully give you that know-how. Good luck, ToS1 out.